What's up, guys? My name is Mindset, and I'm here to show you guys how I made this melodic trap beat. Let me just go ahead and unmute these, my bad, and have you guys give it a listen. Boom. Okay, so that's basically the beat. Um, let's talk about how we go about making something like this. First of all, when it comes to melodic trap, there's a couple things that are always going to be present in this sort of genre, if you will. First, it's going to be hip hop rhythms. Okay. Second, it's going to be trap drums. Third, it's going to be I want to say melodic instruments, but I feel like all instruments can be melodic. So I would say pianos for sure. You could probably substitute the pianos for synths too. Pretty melodies, and I think that's about it, right? So let's break down the chord progression because this is where it all begins. And the other day, I was listening to Drake No Face, and I noticed that the chord progression that was used in that song is used in a lot of trap music. In fact, I think the 1-6 chord progression, which is the one that was used in No Face, and the one that is going to be used here, is responsible for a lot of trap tunes, and it's so easy to make. So, let's talk about these hip hop rhythms because the chord progression that I'm writing here also has this hip hop rhythm embedded in it. Okay? Let me just mute this melody real quick so I can show you guys what I'm talking about. So instead of just writing these straight out, where we just got playing for 4 bars and then we're going to here, we got this so right off the rip, we have a we have a hip hop rhythm, okay? Now this chord progression isn't just a 1-6, it's actually a 1-7-6. And the 7's there just to give it's basically like a passing chord. Okay? Once I had the chord progression, I started writing a melody. The first one I wrote was this one right here. Let's try that again. And I'm sure after that melody, I wrote another one. And I'm sure you've heard this in a lot of other songs. And it's this triplet melody, this repeating triplet melody. And in order to write something like that, go up to your snap to grid, change it from whatever it is on now to 1/3 beat. And that is going to separate the grid into thirds, giving you that that galloping sort of feel. And to write this melody, I basically just used my music theory, which basically says when you write a melody, you start on a chord tone. The chords that we wrote in here, we got E minor, which is E G B, D major, which is D F sharp A, and then C major. So naturally, I just started with one of those three notes. I chose G. We take a step down, go to F sharp, back to another chord tone, E. And with these triplet melodies, the first note is usually going to be the loudest, and then every note after that is going to get quieter and quieter. And to write something like that, you could literally just start from the top here, hold shift. Oh, excuse me. Start from the top here. Is it control? Oh. If you just, excuse me, don't hold shift. If you highlight these and then you right click, you can draw a line with the velocities, right? Whereas if you left click, it's kind of like a free draw, and you don't have as much control over the what am I trying to say? Much control over, them being unified or whatever, or going down at an even rate, right? When you right click and drag, you get this really even spread. And then once you do that, all you do is you highlight, hold control, press B. And then from here, to give it that human feel, select all, hit Alt R, and then bang. Now you got these velocities that are less robotic, a lot more random, and therefore a bit more human. So that's how that melody was born. And then we got this this melody right here. I don't know if I showed this one already or not. Whoops. Real simple melody. And it repeats throughout the whole thing. Cool. So that's 1, 2. Here's our third melody. And again, all my melodies, they start on chord tones. And they either go to a different note and return to a chord tone, the same one, or they start on a note and then go to a new chord tone. This one, I'm just going G, F sharp, back to G. Super simple. And it's making use of that half step interval, which is giving it that edge. Okay, cool. So because we're making melodic trap, instead of using the bass notes from the piano like you would normally do, I basically copied them. This is what the bass would normally look like. I basically copied them and then placed them inside the 808. Okay, let's talk about the drums real quick. A real easy way to make trap drums every single time is to place your kick. So let me show you this pattern here. let's open up the snap to grid. We're going to change this to beat. And this little 3-note figure is in a lot of different trap songs. You'll start hearing it once you see how it's written here. So we got this. Boom, boom, boom. That right there is all you need. And so to write that, you start with your kick drum on the 1. Change your snap to grid to half beat. And now instead of having, just grid lines on the on all the beats, you got them on the upbeats too. So you got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So basically put the kick on the 1, on the and of 2, and then on the 3, and you'll get this trap pattern. And then don't fill up this area. Let it run. Empty space. No kicks. Let it breathe. Let it breathe. That's the big thing about this pattern. What I noticed is that it's just 3 kicks in the beginning, and then for the rest of the bars, it's nothing, and then repeated. I deviated a little bit, and instead of having nothing at the end, because the reason you could do this is at the end of your 8-bar phrase, you can expect a new section to start, and just before that section starts, you signal to the listener by writing out a fill, right? And that's what we got here. Actually, the fill is being done by 2 instruments. We got the rim playing that. Okay, let me mute the hi-hats actually real quick. It might sound better without the hi-hats. So we got the rim shot playing this triplet flow. At the end of the phrase, just to signal to the listener that we're about to transition to a new section. So that's how you make trap drums, or at least that's how you make trap kicks. Now the snare drum is gonna hit on beats. Let's see here. Let's count this out. 1. Whoops. Let's back that up. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 2, 3, 4. So the snare hits on the 3 of every bar, right? A bar is just 4 beats long. If you wanted to keep counting, you could say it hits on the 3 and the let's see what it actually is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You could say it hits on the 3 and the 7. And then for the hi-hat pattern, I basically just did every 2-step, adding a 16th note in between the 8th notes just to give it a little bit of, flavor. That hang time, boy. Boom. That's the first drum pattern. And then when we get to the second part of the verse, instead of having that, kick rhythm with so much, let's just call it air time, so much hang time, so much space, we contrast that first verse, that first half of the verse, with the kick pattern that's a little bit more busy. Let's take a listen. Snares in the same spot. Hi-hats are basically playing the same thing. But it's the kick that really changes the complexion of the drum pattern. You combine that with the bass, you get this. Oh, speaking of the bass, so when you're trying to write either drums to a bass line or a bass line to your drum pattern, you can follow this simple rule to get something that sounds good every single time. And that basically is this. If you were to take the kick pattern and copy it and paste it onto the onto your your 808, those would be all the places you can place your bass. Because basically, the kick and bass, they follow each other. They don't have to all the time, but if you have a drum pattern and you're like, maybe you have a drum loop or you got some drum MIDI and you want to draw a bass line to it, literally just copy and paste the kick onto your 808, and now you don't have to worry about where you're placing the notes, but instead what pitches that they're playing. And if you have a chord progression, well, you can just use the root notes. But just to prove it, I copy and pasted the kicks onto the 808, and you can see they line up. Boom, boom, boom. Bring this down. Boom, boom, boom. Now I could draw in an 808 pattern that follows this one if I wanted to. I just didn't want the 808 to be moving that fast, and I really like how the 808 has, it shows up in the beginning, and then you have to wait a long time for it. It just makes it the impact so much stronger when it comes back. Okay, so that's the trap drums and bass. I think there's another melody that I didn't talk about here. Let's check this out. I think it was this one. Let's just move this. Let's mute it. Get the metronome going. Actually, let's play this with the chords, man. Let me just play this with the chords, so we can hear it in context. So we'll copy, go to melody, paste that. Okay. So, like I mentioned before, we're starting on a chord tone, and all I'm doing is walking. Look at this. I'm walking from B to B, and I'm just using the notes of the scale in between to get there. Now, when we get to the top here, I had started with something like this. Which is not bad. But if you want to get that, I don't know what you would call it, that like bling or that note fling, instead of like, what you would do is you would have your target note, which is this one. Change your snap to grid to, instead of half beat, half step. Ooh, that might be pretty tight. Let's try a sixth beat. Let's see how that sounds. What you do is you take the beginning of the note and put it a half step down or a half step above, depending on the direction your melody's going in. So, for example, since we're going down, right? We're starting on B, we're going down to A. You just take the first part of that initial note, bring it down a half step, or the closest diatonic note away, and hit your target note just to return back. This is basically a neighbor tone pattern, right? You have a note, you go up to a note, and then you return back to that note that you started on. It's just happening a lot quicker. Cool. And basically, good melodies are made up of repetitions. This figure right here is actually being used multiple times throughout this writing. Let me show you. I'm gonna hold Shift, click and drag to make a copy, and boom. We have that same motive, right? just repeated in a different way. I'm going to show you guys again. Hold shift, click and drag. Another repetition. Okay? Same rhythmic idea, just spread across different notes. I'll show you guys one more time. Bang. Okay. So that just shows you the power of repetition. Now watch what I do here. When we get to this end, because I really like this melodic fill part back here, I thought that was just so fun. All I did was I took this whole figure and copy and pasted it till it was in the spot, and then I just moved it down so that it could fit the new harmony, right? Because right here, we're just using the 1/6 chord progression, and in this key, it goes from E minor to C major, and then from bar 5 to 8, bar 5 to 8, we're in C major. So this A, B, and D, those notes don't belong to that chord, so that melody was never going to sound good. So all I have to do, if I want the same shape but in a different sound, is start it on one of the notes that belong to that chord. So we move this down, boom, G, A, C. Okay? I'm using a B here, and because while B isn't a chord tone, it does make up the 7th chord that you could draw out with in C major, right? So you can go C, E, G, B, right? It's not in the triad, but it is a part of the 7th chord, which means it's okay. And at the end of the day, guys, if it sounds good, it is good. But I just wanted to show you how you can really take a shape that you like, repeat it across a new harmony, and give your piece some continuity, right? So let's just listen to this one time through. Boom. So that is, whoops, didn't mean to delete that. That's basically the melody that's going to carry us through the second half of the verse. Because the way this works is, it's 4 bars of verse, 8 bars of verse, followed by a repetition of those 8 bars. And so in order for it not to get too repetitive and boring, instead of just repeating everything identically, like this would look, we just add a little bit of variation. And one of the ways we do that is I just introduce a new melody, right? In this case, we're introducing 2 new melodies. We got that one I just showed you, and then the one I showed you earlier, the super simple one, that, whoops, easy. And then, of course, we, cut out this melody. Okay. Let's just talk about structure real quick before my ADD takes over and I just get lost in what it is I'm doing. When it comes to pop music, rap music, trap music, the intros are usually just 4 bars long. That's what I got going on here. And they usually don't feature the drums. Sometimes they do. But in order for me to give the song some weight, I wanted there to be no drums. Just let the melodies go for 4 bars. And then we start our we start our 16 bar verse. Boom. 1/6 chord progression. Okay? And then we come out, repeat with new information. Onto the chorus. And basically that repeats too. Except the drum pattern's a little bit different. Instead of having the kick, we take the kick out just to give it some variation. No kick. Wait for it, and there it is. Okay, so once you have the chorus, or at the end of the chorus, you basically just repeat everything you just said. And that's basically what I did here. I did one of these, selected everything, held shift, click and drag, and now we have, the second part of the song. Okay? 4-bar intro, if you will, followed by 16-bar verse, followed by a 16-bar chorus. Now, in order to keep the listener engaged, it is a good idea to introduce a little bit of variation. And that is what I did here. So if you'll notice, I added variation to the drums and to the melody. It basically, what I did was, whenever the snare hits, I would cut the drums, and then I would make it so that the melody is just playing a longer note, right? So let's take a listen to that. Snare. 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 Pause. There's a little bit of change in the melody too, not only with the notes, but also the pitches. Over here we got another one of these, I don't know what you would call them, note twirls, I guess. And that is honestly enough to keep the listener engaged. And if you have a rapper over the beat too, a lot of the variation can come from them, But these are just some of the things that I was thinking about, some of the things I wanted to share with you when it comes to making melodic trap. And really, just to end this off, all I did was do a fade out of basically the intro, but instead of it being 4 bars long, it's 16, right? Super simple. All I did to do this was I selected the area that I wanted, opened up the mixer, right-clicked, clicked on Create Automation Clip, and from here you'll get this, and this is basically your fader just outside of the mixer track. And then I just pulled it down on one side, and there you have a fade out. So I hope you guys learned something. Please leave me a comment on what it is you guys would like to learn. I'm so happy to teach. I'm also very new at this, so if I'm rambling or just like stumbling through it, bear with me. I'm trying to help out as many people as I can. If you guys want the project file, let me know. Otherwise, leave a like, leave a comment. Please subscribe. I'm Mindset, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.